The SEC, a 9-game conference schedule, it could actually be happening.
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. You are Locked On the Texas A&M Aggies. I'm your host, Matt Galatzin. Thank you for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today, I am joined by my buddy DJ Burton from Texas A&M Aggies on SI. DJ, today we're going to talk about some Marcel Reed disrespect. We're going to talk about some college football playoff Aggie stuff as we see it. But we're coming off the top ropes early in the show. The SEC could reportedly be considering shifting to a 9-game conference schedule. This would be absolutely huge should it come to pass. According to Yahoo Sports college football insider Ross Dellinger, this is something that, you know, it's kind of a it's not a finalized thing yet. It's been proposed, DJ. Before we kind of get in and break this thing down, what are your first impressions upon hearing a 9-game SEC schedule?
Just right off the bat, my first initial knee-jerk reaction was going to be, whoa, we're adding another one for these guys. Like, it's already the SEC. It's already one of the hardest conferences in all of football. And so adding another one of those games where, you know, I wasn't going to say almost like they currently treat it like a bye week, because they still practice just like they would for an SEC team when they're playing. Because let's face it, every SEC school just schedules, you know, some FCS school like Texas A&M has Samford this year, which they should not be playing Samford. They're nowhere near on the same level. But, you know, just putting those two teams, or not putting those two teams, just comparing the physicality of an FCS team against an SEC team late in the season like that, it's gonna hurt a lot more players. And just my initial knee-jerk reaction was, oh, I don't know if I like that. But on the other hand, it's more SEC football, so that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, and my big problem with scheduling FCS teams, you know, in general, is it doesn't really give you a benchmark. It doesn't really prepare you for what you have going on for the rest of the season. And if you do it in late season, like Texas A&M and a few other schools have been doing lately, Texas A&M plays Samford right before Texas on November 22nd, in between South Carolina and Texas, which is bizarre to me. I feel like it kind of it's almost worse than a bye week, because you don't get the full rest of a bye week, but you still have to go through the motions, and you're not really playing a real team that can threaten you. I mean, hey, Jimbo Fisher lost to Appalachian State. I don't think Mike Elko is going to lose to a school of that level. But regardless, I'm just not a huge fan of it. I like the idea of a ninth conference game just to have better football throughout the year, because there's nothing worse than when you're getting, you know, into the meat of the college football season. You're like, all right, we got a great, you know, another great weekend of college football ahead. And then it's Texas A&M versus Samford, and it's Alabama versus, you know, whoever, like Jackson State. And then it's, you know, it's all these different FCS games that they all seem to fall on the same weekend, and it's very frustrating. What I don't like about this is that it's just going to make life in the SEC that much harder. So with Texas A&M, for example, if you remove Samford from the schedule late in the season, you already have games against Florida. You already have a game against LSU, South Carolina, and Texas. So if you replace that SEC game, or you replace that FCS game with another SEC game, then it becomes, okay, now you're adding Ole Miss to the schedule, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, any other number of SEC teams who are very good football teams, and it's just going to make things that much more difficult. The good thing about that perspective of it, though, is the college football playoff committee recently just announced that they are going to be taking more of a heavy emphasis on strength of schedule. So it's only going to help the SEC in terms of the college football playoff. It's just going to make it that much more difficult to navigate the SEC, which is going to be tough.
Kind of piggybacking off the college football playoff aspect of it, I think it now opens the door for us to see the 5+1 format that the Big Ten was initially talking about. I know that On3's Brett McMurphy, reported that the Big Ten said they would not support the 5+11 program unless the SEC adopted a 9-game schedule. So I think that will definitely kind of open the door for the 5+11 model, 4-4-2-2-1 model that the Big Ten wants.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be much. I'm not going to be happy if the college football playoff moves to 16 teams. I think it's inevitable, but I think if you do it, it's got to be the 5+11 model. But let's kind of break down what all is going into this decision for the 9th SEC conference game, according to Ross Dellinger. He says that according to the previous modeling of 9-game conference schedules, a debate the league has held now for 4 years, each SEC school would play 3 permanent opponents and rotate 6 other conference opponents. He also says that this has been a move that has been sort of in the works since the spring. And, with the combined money from ESPN and potentially ease to the CFP, SEC leaders are kind of becoming more inclined to go down this road. But the most interesting part, I think, in there is the 3 permanent rivals. There's some schools in the SEC who it's very easy to come up with their 3 permanent rivals. Texas, it's Texas A&M, Oklahoma, and Arkansas. Alabama, it's Auburn, LSU, Tennessee. And let's say Auburn, it's Alabama, it's Georgia, and it's LSU. Or actually, that's a harder one. Who would be there? I guess. Yeah. See, this is where it becomes a problem for me, DJ. Is like I'm trying to think of some of these teams and their third rival and what that could potentially mean, and it's really hard to think of one for some of these teams. Yeah. Like for Ole Miss, Mississippi State and LSU are very easy, but then is Vanderbilt your third rival? I mean, I guess because that's kind of been one for them for a while, but it's not really a rivalry, but it kind of is. I mean, there's just so much variance in this thing. It's hard to establish. So what I want to talk to you about before we go to our next segment real quick is who would Texas A&M's third rival be? It's obviously Texas. It's obviously Arkansas because those have been, pretty much pre-established. But who's that third rival for Texas A&M in this scenario?
So my gut reaction for it would have been LSU. But I was thinking of that just feels forced. It feels like it should be that. If A&M fans and Tiger fans, I don't know if their hearts are necessarily in that rivalry. Yeah. It just feels like there's kind of built hatred there just because people tell them that they should hate each other.
Yeah.
But I feel like right now, I think South Carolina may be making a case for that third spot for the Aggies.
Okay. See, my problem with LSU is they already have their 3 rivals.
Yeah.
I mean, LSU feels like they're rivals with everybody in the SEC at some point or another.
I think
but they already have Ole Miss. They already have Florida, who they're supposed to play every year. And they have Alabama. They have Arkansas, which is a trophy, rivalry game. So you got to take that into consideration. But I think you're onto something here, DJ. I think South Carolina might be the answer because South Carolina really doesn't have another SEC rival that's natural that feels like a big rivalry to me. I'm sure that you could come up with one, but their big rival every year is Clemson.
Yeah.
So there's some opening there for Texas A&M, and I think that's a pretty good fit. And they usually when they do face off, it's usually a pretty entertaining game.
And he has a trophy. They play for the bottom trophy every year. Now the bottom trophy has been lost for probably over 10 years. But like no one knows what happened to it. It just between getting passed off, it just got lost. But I mean,
got lost in
it's already
transit.
there.
Yeah.
So I think it would be pretty easy to slide that one in there.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree. It seems like a good fit. They're an up and coming team too, so it'd be a fun game. Yeah, you just got to kind of find that other one. And I think there's a lot of SEC teams in this 9-game idea that would just kind of have to find that other one. Missouri, Oklahoma, Kentucky, Vanderbilt, Auburn. There's a few in there where it becomes a little murky, but overall, I think this would be fun. I think this would be tough. I think this would be good for football. I think it would be good for the college football playoff. All the way around, I think, this has the potential to be kind of a good thing for college football. It's just going to make things difficult on your favorite team in the SEC, which is not necessarily always fun. But let's change gears. When we come back, we're gonna talk about Texas A&M in the college football playoff and whether or not they are actually contenders, or if we think that they're, maybe, I don't want to say pretenders, but maybe just not quite there yet. So stick with us, and we'll be right back. Today's episode is brought to you by Rougiette. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra, Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougiette Ready. Rougiette Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the unusual pills that can take hours, Rougiette's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average, in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked, Rougiette might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. Head to rougiette.com/lockedoncollege and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get 15% off today. That's rougiette.com/lockedoncollege and use promo code LOCKEDONCollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rougiette website for full safety information. All right, DJ, we're back, and it's time to talk a little college football playoff. I realize that the start of the season is still 9 days away. So we don't know what position Texas A&M is going to be in after, non-conference play, let alone after week 1, or, is far reaching out to the college football playoff. But there's been a lot of projections ahead of the season. Most of them don't have Texas A&M going to the college football playoff. There are a few that do. You wrote an article today on Texas A&M Aggies on SI about David Pollock's projection for the Aggies to make the college football playoff. I'm kind of on the fence on whether or not I think this is a college football playoff team. I think that their ceiling is a college football playoff team. I think that their floor is well below a college football playoff team. So what I kind of wanted to propose to you today, DJ, is, taking away the I don't want to say homerism, but like the rosy glasses that we seem to have for this Texas A&M football team, because we are very confident in it, and taking away all the outside noise. Are the Texas A&M Aggies at their core a complete enough football team to legitimately compete for a college football playoff?
I think if with the team that they start with week 1 against the UTSA Roadrunners, I think if that team can stay healthy, that's the biggest thing about this Texas A&M football team. They haven't been able to stay healthy for pretty much as long as I can remember. I think roster-wise, they're solid enough to make a run into the playoffs. But that is if they can keep everybody healthy, which they just have not been able to do. So realistically, probably not, just based on the luck that they've had injury-wise. I mean, they lost their best running back last year. They lost a key defensive back last year. It's just a matter of who they can keep healthy.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you in terms of the health thing. It's been a big issue for them over the last couple of years. I think if Le'Veon Moss stays healthy last year, you're talking about a completely different season for Texas A&M. Maybe they still don't beat Texas. Maybe they still don't make the SEC championship. But I think that it's a much different looking season for them, and they probably have at least a better record. So, and I think that this team has more depth. I think that this team has, despite losing a couple guys off the defensive line, I think largely they're a more talented football team because of the transfer portal, and the way that they were able to recruit and those kinds of things. I'll put it this way: I have projected Texas A&M to make the college football playoff as somewhere between the 9 to 11 range. I think the 12 seed is kind of going to be reserved for the Group of 5 team. So if you make it in on the back end from the SEC, you're probably looking at somewhere between 8, 9, 10, or 11, somewhere in there. I have a lot of hesitance, though, and here's why. I'm going to project it. I've already predicted it, so it'd be cowardly to go back and change my mind now. So I have it. I have Texas A&M in. I just think that this year's version of the SEC is going to be so good that it's going to be very difficult to, you're going to get your champion in, you're going to get your SEC champion runner-up in, and then you're probably going to get 2 to 3 other teams. And I think the SEC is going to be so deep and so good that it's going to be really tough to make the push over the edge and get in over because if you let's project 2 of the SEC favorites to play in the SEC championship game. So we'll say Texas and Alabama. Okay, so we'll say those 2 teams are in. Then you also have to take into consideration LSU and Georgia and South Carolina and Ole Miss and Tennessee and Texas A&M. And you can go on down the list to a couple other teams as well. And it's very difficult to imagine that if Texas A&M doesn't get to double-digit wins, that they're going to have a prayer to get in. And it sucks to say because last year there was multiple teams who were 9-3 who were trying to make a case for themselves to get in. I don't think that's going to be the case this year, and I think that they're probably just going to be on the outside looking in. Now, in terms of the makeup of the football team, I think that they are absolutely built to make the run to the playoff. I think they have the best offensive line in the conference. I think they have the best running game in the conference. I think Marcel Reed is going to take a jump. I think their wide receiver group is better than it was last year. I think the defense is going to be improved, although I have my concerns there in a couple of different spots. But I think this offense is going to be good enough to get them there. My question, I guess, would be if the defense is going to be able to hold up their end of the bargain. I think they can, but I just don't know that the defense is close enough to make them a legitimate college football playoff contender.
Yeah, I completely agree there on the defense. I mean, the only position group that we really 100% know about are the linebackers. We know we have Scooby Williams, and then we know we have Torian Jovic. But on the D-line, the question marks there. I mean, we have a lot of guys. We have Cassius Howell. We saw him last year. He was awesome. But he was also coming in out of relief. So how is he going to participate, or how is he going to perform in that starting role? And then at the same time, that defensive back group was shaky towards the end of the year. So how well are they going to hold up throughout the course of the season?
Yeah, and the defensive tackle group is largely inexperienced and new. I mean, you got DJ Hicks coming back, but then it's And you got Tony and Yedem from Iowa State, but behind that, it's a bunch of freshmen.
Yep.
In the secondary, I know Des Ricks has had a great camp, but you need to see him do it on the field. You know what you have in Will Lee. You know what you have in Bryce Anderson. You think you know what you have in Tyreek Chappell, but, he's coming back from a bad injury, so we'll have to see what happens there. Julian Humphrey at the other corner. Again, he started at Georgia, but he lost his job, and then he transferred, and now he's coming in. So it's like there's a lot of just unknowns on this defense, and I think that if they kind of miss on a couple of these pieces, then it really could play the difference in whether or not they make the college football playoff. Okay, let's take one more break, DJ. We're gonna take a quick one, and when we come back, we're gonna talk about a little perceived disrespect for the Aggies starting quarterback. Stick with us after this break. Today's episode is brought to you by OpenPhone. If you're running a business, every missed call is money left on the table. Think about the last time you needed a service. If the first person didn't answer, did you wait? Probably not. You moved on, and that's why you need OpenPhone, so you never miss an opportunity to connect with your customers. OpenPhone is the #1 business phone system designed to streamline and scale your customer communications. Do you juggle 2 phones just to keep business and personal calls separate? OpenPhone can solve that instantly. See why over 60,000 business owners trust OpenPhone. They're offering Locked On listeners 20% off your first 6 months at openphone.com/lockedoncollege. That's openphone.com/lockedoncollege. They'll even port over your existing numbers for free. OpenPhone. No missed calls, no missed customers. Today's episode is also brought to you by PrizePicks, the daily fantasy platform that lets you turn your football predictions into real rewards. Preseason is already heating up, and college football isn't far behind. Whether you've got an eye on big-name quarterbacks or a breakout running back, PrizePicks makes it easy to get in the game. I personally love using PrizePicks on NFL Sundays. It's a simple way to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you can cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 off in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, DJ, we are back, and we are going to talk about a little bit of disrespect, perceived disrespect, in fact, I guess, for Texas A&M starting quarterback Marcel Reed. Before we get into the actual, disrespect, I feel like Marcel is. I don't understand why people are counting him out so much. There's all these questions about his passing, which I kind of understand, but at the same time, I've seen the kid make throw after throw after throw. It's just about consistency with him, and it's about cleaning a couple things up. And I think that year 2 in the system, he's going to be able to do that. But I just feel like, people just keep searching for a way to take a dig at Marcel, whether it's him not being at SEC media days, or whether it's, the passing thing or whatever the case may be. So recently, Oh, go ahead, DJ.
I've noticed that too. It feels like no matter what, like he's always on the outside looking in, and it's like I don't understand why most of the time.
Yeah, I mean he kind of took the SEC by storm last year after he became the starter, and I know they dropped a couple of games, but he was the reason they were in those games in the first place. He got them in position to beat Auburn. He beat LSU. He kept them in the game against down the stretch, and it was the defense that really let them down. I think outside of the Texas game where they just couldn't score, it was largely the defense down the stretch that was the issue with this football team. It wasn't Marcel Reed. USC game, he played great. He put them in a position to win. The defense, kind of collapsed at the end. So recently, it came out that that Marcel Reed was not listed in a preseason QB ranking. A college football account on X basically released their top 25 quarterbacks for the preseason. Clemson quarterback Cade Klubnik, no surprise, topped the list. But Marcel Reed was left off of the list. And the account is week-to-week college football. And I'll just run through the rankings real quick. And you can tell me, DJ, where you think that that Marcel should slide in here. I have a pretty good idea myself, but Cade Klubnik, number 1, Lenore Sellers, 2, Garrett Nussmeier, 3, Drew Aller, 4, DJ Lagway, 5, Sam Leave at 6, Haynes King, 7, which former Aggie, happy for him. That's ridiculous that he's that high. Carson Beck, 8, Arch Manning, 9, Diego Pavia, 10, John Mateer, 11, Nico Iamaleava, 12, Kevin Jennings, 13, Josh Hoover, 14, Sawyer Robertson, 15, Luke Altmaier, 16, Fernando Mendoza, I have no idea who that is, 17, Avery Johnson, 18, Rocco Beck, 19, Darian Mensah, 20, Damon Williams Jr., 21, and then Baron Morton from Texas Tech, 22, Taylon Green, 23, Devin Dampier, 24, and Dylan Raiola from Nebraska, 25. Marcel has got to be somewhere in there, DJ. And I think he's probably got to be top 15.
Yeah, easily. I'd personally slide him in probably right in there, right after Nico, right into the 13 spot. But, I mean, Rocco Beck, like, he's Marcel Reed is not worse than Rocco Beck. He's not worse than Taylon Green. He's not worse than Baron Morton. Now, I would say that Devin Dampier over at Utah is significantly lower than what he needs to be. He needs to be probably up there closer to Nico. Like, he was the only reason why that New Mexico offense could do anything last year.
Yeah.
So seeing him at 24 was like, oh, I don't know about that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like he's pretty low as well. For me, Marcel, probably somewhere around. I think Nico may be ahead of him. Kevin Jennings, I'll give him. He was in the college football playoff last year, so I'll give him the edge over Marcel. But somewhere around Josh Hoover, Sawyer Robertson, Luke Altmaier. He's better than Fernando Mendoza. He's better than Rocco Beck. He's better than Darian Mensah. He's better than Damon Williams. He's better than Baron Morton. He's better than Taylon Green. He's better than Dylan Raiola. At least right now, Dylan Raiola may eventually turn into a superstar. I'll have to stop Patrick Mahomes cosplaying to I think get to that level, but he's got the the skills to do it. And Marcel Reed's father did not take very kindly to this. He replied to this list and just simply said, "The disrespect continues," with a picture of his son Marcel. Which I feel like he has every right to be upset about this. It's ridiculous to leave Marcel off this list. It's ridiculous to keep trying to find ways to put him down and make it seem like he's not an elite quarterback in the SEC. I think he's a top 10 quarterback in the SEC. I think he's a top 15 quarterback in the country. And really, DJ, the disrespect just has to stop.
It really does. One thing that makes me happy personally is if you go and look at the replies to Rod Reed's post, nothing but love and support for his son. So I'm sure that has to at least help the disrespect feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
But it's ridiculous that Marcel Reed continues to just be left off this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and we're not trying to sound like homers here. We're not trying to sound like we're not objective, but objectively speaking, Marcel Reed is better than at least 10 quarterbacks on this list. Make it stop. Include he's made some preseason watch lists, but largely overall he's been incredibly underrated. And I think that when you look up about mid-season, maybe around the LSU game, the world is going to start to take notice of Marcel Reed. So that is something to keep an eye on for sure. But that is going to do it for another episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank you so much for making us your first listen today. For your second listen, please check out the Portal Show. Brian Smith has the latest rumors, portal entries, and signings. You can be the most informed fan on the rapid changes to the college football landscape. You can find the portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to our channel, give me a follow over on Texas A&M Aggies on SI and on X at Matt Galatzin. You can follow DJ at DJ Burt on X, and we will see you next time.